Welcome back to After the Routine. I'm your host, Rochelle Provo, and I'm here with the one, the only, the incredible Judge Mimi. If you have not heard of her before, Mimi is an international cheer judge and the voice behind Judge Mimi on Instagram and TikTok, where she makes scoring clear and accessible for parents, coaches, and athletes. She serves as the chair of Cheer Canada's official committee. She also judges Worlds and Summit Bids events across multiple continents. And she is the founder of Cheer Starters, which is an inclusive school-based cheerleading program in British Columbia that introduces young athletes to the leadership and teamwork of the sport. So thank you so much for being part of this podcast, Mimi.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'd love to know, how did you get started into the sport of cheerleading?
Yeah, I started in CEGEP in Montreal. So CEGEP is almost like it's after high school, but before university. And it was during the time where like Bring It On was really big. And it was offered in CEGEP. It wasn't offered in my high school. And so when I set my mind on going to that college, I was like, I have to be part of the cheerleading team. Like this has to be part of my college experience and how I go about like this whole like growing up. And so as a dancer, I tried to make the transition and it wasn't easy. Like I wasn't picked on the team the first time I applied for it. I was like small and frail, but tall. And we couldn't find like a role for me. But like I worked for 6 months in the gym to like build muscle and like start to understand how to use like my strength instead of like my like elegance and dance. And so, yeah, that's how I started in cheerleading and it was exploding at that time. There was just so much happening. I started on a team. 6 months later, I was coaching a team. And then like, it just like went from there, like one thing after another. There was just so little of us in Montreal at that time that wanted to do cheer and that were like well-versed into like what coaching and teaching meant, that we all just like exploded and started our own team and built cheerleading in Montreal from there.
I love that. And then how did you, over the years, how did that role and your love for cheerleading evolve into something that you were like, yeah, I want to pursue a career in this? Or was it something that you came back to later?
I'm going to say came back to later because realistically, when I was in university, I was also coaching in a high school and I was coaching, like I had 3 teams in a high school. And as a university student, this schedule worked so well for me. I would go to school like in the morning and in the afternoon. And then from like 3 to 6, I would like 3 days a week, I would go and coach in this high school and it was paying me, which I'm super grateful for. In Quebec, we're really well set up for anything like for sports program to be paid. So like any position, like the football coach is paid, the like badminton coach is paid. So is the cheer coach. So I was paid and I was able to build this program from 1 team, 2 team, 3 team, and then really make it substantial that it was like good enough money for me to be like, you know what, like I'm making a little bit of money here. I can cheer. It's not like, and then I was cheering like at night. So like 7, 8, 9. So it was like the right balance for me of school and then coaching and then going and doing my own teams. It was the right thing. But then as I was starting to enter the corporate world, I was a marketing student. And so I was working for Red Bull and for O'Neill, and I was doing like a lot of things. I was having a hard time finding a space where like I could continue coaching 3 to 6. It didn't really make sense for me to continue coaching. And so I moved to coaching at the university level. But then the money was different at the university level. It wasn't like as much as like a high school pay. But I was doing it for the love of it. And I got injured at that time. And so like there was still some of my friends on the team. I felt like I wasn't finished with the team. So I wanted to continue going. And then I got this opportunity to move. And I think that was the biggest part for me to stay in this industry was that moving piece where like I went from Montreal to Vancouver and I moved away from like my cheer community. And so a way for me to stay included, I had started judging in Montreal, and I was judging quite often, like almost like every other weekend. And that time, like Montreal was booming. And so I was judging a lot. And so when I went to Vancouver, I wasn't affiliated and people were like, we're looking for non-affiliated judge. And I was like, oh my God, me, I'm non-affiliated and I've been judging, I have experience. And so I was able to like find this like small community there that I was able to like join. And so I stayed on to give back. And for like 12 years, I was judging mostly in BC, like sometimes coming back to Montreal to judge some competition there, but traveling judging wasn't like a big thing at that time. It was more like local judge. And so I was dabbling. I had some event. There wasn't like that many events. And at one point when I had my children, I was like, maybe it's time for me to quit. Like maybe it is time for me to just move on, you know? But there was this calling. Like I felt like cheerleading, like I wasn't able to just say no. I was like, ah, but they need me. Like they're missing a judge. Like I have to be there. And with my husband, we kept on discussing it as like, is that a thing? Like, why is this still in my life? You know? And it was like, it didn't make a lot of sense. And then about like 3 years ago, I started posting on TikTok and it just went viral. And I was like, oh, maybe that's why it's still in my life, you know? 12 year of not knowing like, why am I still doing this? And then TikTok started picking up. And then my daughter's school were looking for people to do after school activity. And I was like, oh, I could offer cheer. Like I used to coach level 7. Like I can coach cartwheel to kindergartners. Like why not? And so I started that. And that was growing really much. And I was like, oh my God, like there's an opportunity there. And then another school reached out and another school reached out. And then at one point I was like, wait a second, Judge Mimi is exploding. This cheer starter thing is exploding too. And I'm holding on to this job that is really nice. Like I love what I was doing. But then at one point I was like, I've been growing this for 2 years, burning myself out like every single like free time. Like I was in the lunch break, like reviewing routine, a lunch break, doing videos, like after school, like as I was picking up like my kids, like stopping in the parking lot and like sending registrations. And I was like, this is insane. Like I can't keep going this way. And so sat down with my husband and then we just wrote down a plan of like what it would look like to actually do cheer full time. And is that really what I wanted to do? And the more I was looking at all those pieces in my life, I was like, if I do cheer full time, all of those pieces that I've done, like the marketing, the working in camps, the coaching, the judging, the being like a marketing executive and the traveling and this and that, like it will all culminate and like go into this one thing that has like different like yeah, it's like I could use like all of my arsenal into this one project. And I was like, I want to do this. Like I want to go and just do it full time and give it a best shot, you know?
I think that's always been my favorite one. Like as someone who has also moved from like around Kingston area to Chilliwack, and I'm like, I left my whole community there, right? And to
Mhm.
find the same similar community, you're like, cheerleading has been that thing that you can go back to and be like, okay, we speak the same language regardless of like where we are in the
Yep.
country or even like in the world, which is even cooler when you think about it as a global perspective. But yeah, I love that. I think it's some of the best projects I've ever been involved with have been those ones that have kind of like snuck up on you and they're working and they're building and you're like, wow, like let's do this.
Mhm.
Like this is an opportunity and let's just see where it takes me, which I think has worked out really well because you have gotten so many opportunities from that. So
Yeah.
what kind of started, like what was the first moment where you're like, I'm going to post about a routine or about scoring or about judging on
Yeah.
social media?
Um, it was during COVID, and I think it was out of necessity. So, like, during COVID, cheer stopped for a bit, and, like, in Canada, at least it stopped. In the US, it was still going. And so, like, I felt like I was watching routine and I was watching things, and I was like, this is really good. And it's good because of XYZ. And I feel like I've always been like finding it easy to make sense of what I was watching, like as a coming from dance and like breaking down movement for kids and then going to cheerleading and figuring out lines and so on and so on. Like I've always had this like a way of being able to talk about what I was seeing with words and like not just being like, this is better. Why? I don't really like unable to like say it. So I was watching videos and I was like, let me just make a video and say like my opinion of this. And like, I'm a really positive person in like my life. And so I was like, let's talk about the things that like I love about this video. And so I posted this first video and then there was like 500,000 views on this. And I was like, whoa, what is happening? And then I was like, okay, it was BC Provincial, which actually was like 3 years this weekend, 3 years ago. So like three BC provincials ago. And so I was like, okay, I'm alone in this room and I'm going to do a get ready with me because that was the time of get ready with me, Alex Earl, like everybody was doing it.
Yep.
I was like, let me just try to see if I can talk to the camera and like edit it and so on. And I had been like dabbling in like editing photos for Instagram and editing videos for work. And so I was like, can I do this for myself? So I did a get ready with me and that also took off. And then it was NCA National. And I was like, I was like, okay, college national, like, can I pick up like some views from that and some traction? So I tested like different type of content, and everything I was posting was like 500, 1 million views. Like it was always just super popular. And I was like, yo, there's something there. Like there
Yep.
is something there. People are curious about it. And I think like one thing I like to like as a when I was working in corporate, one thing that I was really good at doing was seeing trends and seeing like what's next. And so when I was like, okay, this is working, what's next? Like what's the next thing? Where are people going? What's the next like trend, the next thing, blah, blah, blah. And so I was able to just like jump on and figure out and not have it stale, just figure out what was the next thing for like the evolution of this. And yeah, so that's what like started it. And it's interesting because like as a women and like as female, like I feel like maybe a guy would have just jumped on this and then be like, I'm quitting my job, I'm doing this full time. But female, we're much more careful in our approach to like how we do this. And so like when I decided to quit my job 2 years in, I had this like I had a business model that was working for me, you know, like it wasn't just like it was strategically placed and planned. Like I had tested out things and I was like, okay, this is working. This is what's working for Judge Mimi. This is how, like, I don't monetize any of my content. So, like, there's no money coming from TikTok or Instagram. Then I was like, but I can give out classes and that is paying, and I can go to conference and I can keep judging and I can do like reviews and help team. And that was like this business model for Judge Mimi. Then when I look at Cheer Starter, I had like 4 schools. I was doing like special need classes and like all of these other school. And I was like, I know this is working and I can like build on this. And I know like I had staff and so on and so on. And I had a full-time job. But then like I had these 2 businesses that I was like, there's potential for both of these to be really something. And this safety net is there so that I'm not like screwing with my family by being like, bye bye salary and insurance, you know? Like,
Yep.
so it was like, so I feel like females are much more careful in the way we approach things, but it also makes for so much more, like, it makes much more sense, in my opinion, on like how we approach this because now I was like, it came with a plan. I was like, this is how much money this I think could make if I was to do it like X, what I'm doing right now, because I only have like 4 hours a day and I'm going to bed at like 12 and I'm coming back like at 5, like to do more
Yeah.
reviews. And I was like, and this, if I double my number of school, this is how much money I think we can make. And then it was like, okay, this is like actually a business. Like we can grow this, you know? So it was set. It wasn't just like, let's go.
Yeah. Which I think is like for a lot of entrepreneurs and people who are transitioning from full-time roles into this being their plan, I find that, like you said, a lot of females are very strategic in how they approach it. And they kind of also transition slower than, like you said, when I talk to male entrepreneurs, that they're the same, right? They'll be like, okay, I give myself 3 months and we're going to figure this out, right? Whereas like a lot of the female entrepreneurs and I talk to, and I'll be like, okay, for 3 months, I'm going to increase it by this much. And then the next 3 months, I'm going to increase it by this much. Okay, now we're at the point where, okay, we're going to transition fully, which I think is, yeah, such an interesting way that we approach them without even realizing that we do it.
Mm-hmm. And like, there's so many pieces in like previous job that I've took into this one job. Like when I used to work at Lululemon as a store manager, I've learned like so much about how to run a P&L and how to run a business and like where is the revenue coming from, what are my expenses, and how those two lever works together. And so like what I find is really important for female going into this industry and going into this business, if you want to start a gym, if you want to start a program, if you want to work for yourself, if you want to choreograph, like understanding your P&L is going to be like number one priority in my opinion. I don't have an accountant because I actually want to do it myself. Like I know every single penny coming out of my bank account, coming into my bank account. Like I know where it's coming from. I do the invoice. I make sure like everything reconcile. And I think like Lululemon taught me this, and then I'm bringing this into my own business. And I think that's what makes it successful. When I speak at conference and I like hear from other people starting gym or still doing it part time, and they're like, I'm not paying myself. I'm like, tell me about your P&L. Like I'm like, tell
Yeah.
me about your P&L. Like, what about your expense? Like you're able to pay other people, but you're not able to pay yourself, but you're putting the most work into this business. Like I'm really curious about that too, because I feel like I was also underpricing myself when I started. I was like, oh yeah, like my reviews, like, oh, I don't know, give me like $50 or like $100. And then I was spending like 3 hours on this. And I was like,
Yeah.
wait a second, like what? And like the emailing the client, the sending this, the editing the video, the blah, blah, like it takes time, you know? And so like breaking it down per hours also was like a thing that's like, if we can stop underpricing ourselves and show the value that we're bringing, like, and that's the thing. It's like I never had a problem like getting more clients for like things like reviews and stuff because team come in with like one of their world's team, they receive my video and then they're like, shit, we need this for all of our team. Like this is like it's really strong. So I'm not losing
Yeah.
clients. I'm just building on this, you know?
Yeah. And I think too that like bringing in experience from other areas and other jobs, like, if you're a teenager that's starting at McDonald's, you're starting at Lululemon, like that experience is still applicable to your career. Like my goodness, I think I spent 3 or 4 summers while I was in university where I spent dealing blackjack as a table
Mm,
games dealer. And I also worked in like the cage. So, like I was dealing with millions of dollars. I was dealing with, customer service. And those are the areas that I excel at really well now because of those experiences, right? And systems and all those things. But a lot of people would be like, a table games dealer, like what you just played games, right? And I'm like,
yeah.
no, like there are so many aspects to like when I talk to parents, when I email my co-coaches, right? If I'm talking to a client and we're onboarding, all of those experiences add into what you're doing.
Exactly. I call it transferable skills. Like you have those skills that you're putting, like grabbing from different jobs. Like I used to work in camp. Like I know how to run a group. I know where the issues are like in transition. I know how to keep them busy. I know how to like keep them engaged, and like camp is not a cheer practice, but it's close.
Yes,
And then same thing, like working with Lululemon, I was hiring, I was firing people, I was managing employees. Like I was figuring out like pay and bonuses and like how to motivate them and how to do schedule and how to make sure we have the right talent in the right spot, like succession planning and so on. I'm doing the same thing with my coaches, like what's next for them. And so like all of those tools that you're bringing in from other job, like I was editing videos for this client. Well, now I edit my own videos. And then like, so you bring them in and it becomes your tool belt. And I think we need to figure out also, like, I'm going to go back to this female thing, but like women will undersell themselves on those like transferable skill.
100%.
Like, oh, I don't have like, you're like, I manage a household. I know, like, I manage my kid. I get them ready on time. Like, there's so much more that like we can bring as transferable skills, and even like school, meeting deadline, like, talking with teacher respectfully, managing your, like the people you work with and like, to make sure we get to this like project on time. Like this is all thing that you can now use in other part of your career.
Yeah, especially with sport, because now you're going from school, you're going to practice, you have to study, you have to get your homework done. All of those apply to when you go into a career, when you get a job, whether that's as a coach, as a judge, or even other things like a uniform manufacturer, right? So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I agree. There's so many things that even like being on a team and learning to communicate with teammates and how do you work through an issue in your stunt together, I think they all apply. Now, you did mention, and I want to go back to it, Cheerstarter. So can you
Yeah.
talk about Cheerstarter, what it is, how it came to be?
Yeah, Cheerstarter is my program. It was designed in a way for me to still be able to judge. And so like one of the thing, like judge me is such a big part of like of me and who I am and like how like uh, that I wanted to make sure that if I'm starting something, one, it's helping BC and the community here, and two, it's not like taking away from Judge Mimi. So like those were the two part that I was thinking about. And so to make sure that I'm still able to judge, then I need to make sure I don't have any affiliation. So I can't go back into a gym and be like, yeah, I'm gonna be a coach at XYZ gym and then judge in BC. Like it just
Yeah,
doesn't work that way. And so I knew that. And then with my background more in school, I was like, there has to be a way to be able to coach in school without having to be a volunteer, because that's the other thing in BC. If you want to judge, you want to coach into a high school, you first need to be a volunteer and then need to have teacher support or something
yeah,
like
like a
that that will like,
representative.
yeah, that will represent like you for the school. And so I was like, I don't know if that's my vibe. But then one day my daughter was starting kindergarten or grade 1, and they were like, "We have all of those activities that are offered at the school, like karate and chess and STEM class and art class." And I was like, "Wait a second." And like the parents are paying for this? And they were like, "Yeah." And I was like, "This is my niche. This is my like this could be my thing." First of all, like it's community programming, but directly in school. As a parent, I was like, I want my daughter to be part of this because then I don't have to go and grab her at a random like 3:30 p.m. and then drive her to her gymnastic class. You mean you're taking them right from their school and then like doing this in the school? That like life changing for a parent. And so I was like, okay, first life changing for a parent. Parents are paying for this, so there's money opportunity also there. It's not like all volunteer. And then I was like, I could do this. I can try it, right? Like, let me do a session with my daughter's friend and then see how it goes. So we started 5 kids on my first class, 7 the second class, 12 the third class. And then I was like, I need an assistant. Like 12 grade
We're
1, I
getting
was
to the point.
like, this is like, we did one class and I was like, I need more. Like, I need someone else here with me. So now I was like, okay, I'm going to get an assistant here. And then we got to 16 and I was like, okay, I feel like this is a good ratio. Like 1:8 is kind of my ratio. We got to 16. We did a show at the end. And then so many parents were reaching out like, oh my God, we want this. Like we are in kind of an aquarium. It's called the atrium is where we are, but it's all window. So all parents coming to pick up their kids could like stop and be like, what is this class? And like see what we were doing. And so that was my best marketing. And so we grew this program. After the first semester, we had 16 kids, and that was April to June. So the next September, we had 2 classes. So we had like a K to 1 and then a 2 to 5 in this school. And then it was like 20 kid, 20 kid. Like it just, and then I was like, what other school would like to have this program? Like, and then I chatted with the
Yep.
karate guy actually, and I was like, yo, karate guy, where else are you giving those classes? And then he was like, this school and that school. I was like, let me reach out. And then reached out, booked the 2 school. I was like, great. Then I chatted with the soccer guy. I was like, where else are you giving your classes? And he's like, oh, I didn't really want to share. I was like, I can find it on your website. So I'm like, this is the best school. So I just went and I went after like, so now we're this group of providers that are all in the same schools. And like, I see the same like guy like here and there all the time. And now we offer cheerleading. And so it started organically. And then I saw the opportunity and I was like, this is a good business model. And then I managed to hire some like university student and grade 12 cheer student that also were like, hey, I'm on a world's team. I need my weekend free. And I was like, great. We are paying for coaches and it's only 3 to 5. If like you have a school that has 2 hours or 4 to 5. And then you're free to go and do your thing. And we don't have any weekends because we don't do competition. We do shows. So no weekends, no nights. Monday to Thursday. All of my schools are packed in like this Monday to Thursday. And then like as I was doing this and started talking to people, a district reached out and were like, would you be open to do special needs kids, like special needs program during the school day? And I was like, yeah, let me give it a shot. Like I'll come and try a class. We tried a class, we readjusted. And then again, this program is full during the day. So it's like opportunity presented themselves and I jumped on it. And I was willing to be like, listen, I don't fully know how this is going to work out, but let me just try. And I think that's one thing, like I do really well in the unknown. Like when people are like, like I need to control everything. I'm like, we'll just figure it out. Like it's fine. Like it's good. Like I trust my ability to figure it out in the moment. And so, yeah, when I was at 12 kid after an hour, I was like, we need more people. And then
Yep.
after my first special need class, I was like, I need cue cards. I need an alarm clock. I need this. I need like, it was just really clear. I was like, this is missing. And then I would register it. And then we got to like, yeah, like a formula.
I love that. And I think I agree that it is when it's something that you're passionate about and you're like, I'm enjoying this, you are more willing to be like, I'll figure it out. Like I'll adjust, I'll work. Like you said, I'll bring in more people. I need different equipment for different kids. So I love that. I think it's being able to offer an inclusive opportunity for athletes to realize how much the sport can help them, both like physically, mentally, socially, but also just spark a passion for the sport and be like, no, wait, I want to do this. Like I And it could be that one where it's like that little spark that now they're going to an all-star gym and they're going to
Yep.
spend 12 years and maybe start being a coach. Maybe they start being a judge. And it was that little moment was like, yeah, Judge Mimi taught me cheerleading. And like, I loved it so much that I continued for the rest of my life.
And like that was one thing that when I started this thing, I was like, I don't want, like, I'm so close to all the gym owners here. I was like, I don't want them to start feeling like I'm going into their backyard and like grabbing business, because that's not the case. And so I'm really clear on the fact that we're a rec program. And then I have like, I'm passing them off to gyms when they want birthday in a gym. I'm like, I have a gym for you. Like, this is the closest to you. Here it is. Here it's there. I have like kids that are doing the program in school and they're doing a novice team. I have kids that are going to summer camp, cheer summer camp. And I'm like, I'm offloading them because you know what? Next year, 65 kindergartners are coming into this school. And then they're like, it's going to take me one semester and like, I'm going to probably grab like 20 of them and they'll be like,
Yeah.
yeah, cartwheels. And I'm like, no problem.
I love that. So you mentioned it a little bit, but throughout the time that you've spent coaching, you've spent Judge Mimi building all these brands, what has stood out as being the most impactful way of you finding and then going after opportunities?
Talking about it. Like it's almost like trial and error. I find that like we have to stop being like scared of presenting a product that is unfinished. I'm like, it's 40% like done. I'm like, let's put it out in the universe and like see how it goes. Right? Worst case, like if it's a video, worst case, like I post it, I'm like, ooh, it doesn't hit, like I can remove it and then refresh my idea. Right. So that could be a way. And then same thing for like starting a business. Don't just talk about what you're starting when it's fully fledged and established. You need to like create opportunities for people to come and help you and like be okay with like, at first I was like, okay, we're doing this, we're doing that. And then people were asking questions. I was like, superb question. I have no idea. But you're bringing in such a good point that will make me think and then make me bring something like more, right? And so like talking about it and being able to be in those conversations of just like, hey, I'm trying this, or like you're trying this, like curious about others, open to like sharing what works, what doesn't work, has been like kind of like my biggest thing. I think that helped me like grow this is just, and trying. Just you try and then it doesn't work, but like the one that tries will have way more chance of being successful than the one that doesn't.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of power also in speaking it out loud and being like, no, I'm doing this, right? Instead of thinking in your brain, like, oh, I could do this, like I might do this. When you start saying it out loud, now you're being held accountable to it. And you're like, okay, I'm going after this, right? I'm going to
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
then I'm trying to think about the other one. I had another question, but we'll come back to it if I remember it.
Okay.
If you weren't doing what you're currently doing,
Mm-hmm.
what other role in cheerleading or youth sports would you want to do?
Ooh. My brain's going in like two different directions. Like in one part, and it's like I'm not doing it right now, but it's something that I would want to do. Like I think I want to do camp. Like I would want
Oh,
to do
yep.
camp. I love the excitement of camp. I love the wildness of like hosting a camp and so on. And I think like that's what I would want to do. Just really like I loved working in camp in the summer. Like I see my daughters go, like she's at a camp right now and like she's in an outdoor camp and I'm like, I miss it. Like I miss being creative and being wild and having mascots and having like feud with other like groups and like, just
Yeah.
like really like I love camp. So I think I would do something around maybe cheer with camp. And then if it wasn't that, I'm not even sure if I'm able to do this. So like I would have to figure out like if I can trust my abilities, but I think I would want to do choreo. I think there's like a creative outlet with choreography that would just be so freeing. And I think that's why like also Judge Mimi is freeing because it's my creative outlet of like, oh, I love this, oh, that, oh, this or that. But I never implement it. And I think like the implementation of this could also be really, really interesting.
I love
Yeah.
that. Okay, my final question is if you were to give advice to your 16-year-old self, what do you wish that you would have known or would have told yourself about going after a career in sports? or even the journey that you've taken throughout your career?
Yeah. I don't know if I would change anything. That's the thing. Like, I think I would say to my 16-year-old self, just trust yourself. Like when I was 16, let's just go there for a second. When I was 16 or like maybe 16, 17, maybe a little bit older, when I started doing my first like football game, my dream role was to work for the NFL. Like I was like, I want to work for the NFL. I want to do game day, and like this is where I want to go. And like I interned for the Alouettes. I used to work for the Montreal Canadiens. Like before, that was before I worked for Red Bull. And so like, and it was a long time ago. Like I did all of the games for 4 years, also like cheering in the stand for the Montreal Canadiens. And like, that's what I wanted to do. And it's always been such in the back of my mind that that's what I wanted to do. And then in turning for the Alouettes, I was like, well, this is an old boys club. Like, it's just like, it's too much like suit and tie. And like the
Yeah.
guys are running it and the female are like supporting. And I was like, I don't know if I'll be able to find myself there. But I was always able to trust myself and be like, okay, I can't find myself there, but like then I went and worked for Lululemon, still in sport. I worked for Red Bull, still in sport. We were doing events and so on. And there was always this underlying thread of like sport will always be part of my life, but I never knew how. And now like tonight I'm hosting a TikTok live with the Pro Cheer League and I'm going to broadcast it and I'm going to be there. And so like now we're back to this. It's like I'm doing what I love to do because I took those like twists and turns and I wasn't just set on one thing. I was like, oh, like I wanted to do the NFL. I still want to do the NFL. Like NFL, call me if you want me to do this. I love like game days. I love like wearing the earpiece and like, okay, we're going here. We're like, I love that. I would still want to do it. And I think that's why I love camp. And that's why I love like the PCL, the Pro Cheer League, and so on and so on.
Yeah.
It's because it brings me back to the things I love and not being stuck on like one goal. I've been finding that like in the past 20 years, because now I'm like 37. And so from like 16 to like 37, there's always this red thread of things I do that I'm just following things that I love. And I'm not like when I don't like something, I'm gonna leave. Like I'm gonna leave
Yeah.
and just trusting myself that way has been such a blessing for like what this whole career and this whole journey of just being like, okay, I can trust my gut instinct here.
I love that so much. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. When we are back for our next episode, we will be answering the question, what happens after the routine? Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.